This video is continuation of the previous one, where I began explaining Transact SQL functions. Since there are many functions to cover, I have split the content into two separate videos to keep things concise and easy to follow. If you have not watched the previous video yet, I highly suggest checking it out at first, as I cover some very important functions there. In this video, I will be explaining the following functions: GETDATE and SYSDATETIME returns the current date and time of the server. DATEADD to add number of time units to a date. DATEDIFF function allows you to find the difference between two dates. DATENAME and DATEPART function returns the part of the date specified. Also, we have day, month, and year functions, works like a DATEPART. The ABS, the square, the round, and the rand functions are mathematical functions. We will have admin functions that are used by database administrators. We will be using case function to evaluate a list of expressions and return the first one that evaluates to true, using functions in where and order by clause. Now go ahead and open your SQL Server Management Studio and follow along with these examples. Doing them with me will help you to understand and remember these functions more easily. Go on and click on New Query, and first one is GETDATE and SYSDATETIME. Let's select, for example, select GETDATE and also select SYSDATETIME. Go on and run this query, and as you can see, we will have like these two outputs. First one is GETDATE and the second one is SYSDATETIME. The difference is that the SYSDATETIME returns 7 decimal places after the seconds. From here you can see it. While GETDATE returns only 3 places. Like after this point there will be only 3 places. Basically these two functions give you the current data time, but in a different precision. Next one is DATEADD. You can add anything like year, month, or a day. Let's do the following example and you will understand it more. Let's again use this AdventureWorks database, and from this database let's choose one of the tables. Let's say sales order header table. Let's select from this table, select star from this table, and let's check our columns. And in our columns we should have order date, as I remember. Yes, we have order date, and let's use DATEADD function. Let's at first select order date, and next one let's do like DATEADD this order date. At first we need to write that I want to add year. How many years? For example, 1 year, right? Comma again, and simply you can copy paste this one. Let's say 2 times. Here you can add months or a day. It's up to you. Let's change numbers here. For example, 2 months and 3 days, and run this command. And as you can see, we have 2011. When we added 1 year, we have 2012. Also, we added like 2 months. As you can see, we have 5th month, we have here 7th month, and so on. We can add this DATEADD function to add some kind of year, month, or day. You can simply, let's copy paste this one, and instead of writing positive number, you can write here negative number. And if you select this one, as you can see, when we have like 2011, we have 2010 with -1. You can use this minus anywhere. Run this command, and this way you will be able to subtract some days, months, or an year. Next one in this video's agenda is like DATEDIFF. With this DATEDIFF you are able to find difference between two dates. Let's again use this sales order header table and calculate the difference between GETDATE and, for example, order date, right? Again, we need to write basically same things. Let's use this order date. Let's again use this table, And let's use, instead of DATEADD, let's use DATEDIFF function. Also, let's say here, write GETDATE for as current date. Let's move this down. And also, now let's use DATEDIFF function. With this, we will be able to calculate difference current year and the year of the order date. Simply just write year, we need order date column, and we need today's like get date, right? And simply write comma here. And let's call this something like year diff as year difference. Simply copy paste this one, and as we did in a DATEADD, instead of year you can write here months. You can add here day. Instead of year you should correct this like as month. Here write day. Delete this comma and run this command. As you can see, difference between this and current date is 14 years. Again, 14 years, like the difference between this date and order date and current data time, the difference in the days is this number, and day difference is this number. So this function is very useful and very easy to use. With this, you will be able to calculate difference between two columns, or even as we did like the one column and today's date. So next one is DATENAME and DATEPART functions to return part of date specified. Let's run following select statement. Let's run, for example, select. Again, use the same table because we have this date column here. Use this order date. And let's use DATEPART function. As with DATEPART function, you need to include what do you want, which part do you want. For example, I want year, right? Copy paste this one again, day or months. These functions, like with their syntax, they are very close. As you saw, I am using these keywords every time in their like brackets, right? Run this command, and as you can see from here, year is 2011, day is 31, and month is the 5, right? Also, we have function called DATENAME. Copy paste this one, and instead of DATEPART in the syntax, write DATENAME. Again, copy paste this one for 3 times and run it. You will have same output, but instead of, for example, in previous select statement, let's select once again. In first one, as you saw, here instead of like month's name, we have month's number, but here we have actual month's name. For example, the 5th month is a May, right? So there is only one difference. This DATENAME function is able to return actual months names. Also, in Transact SQL has a day, months, and year functions. I'm using these keywords, and as you can see, this is like keyword for Transact SQL, as it is in a different color. You can use these keywords to actually separate year, day, and months. Basically, they work as a DATEPART and DATENAME. Let's try it. For example, when we used GETDATE, here at the front you can write year and GETDATE. Again, for example, months, and in the brackets GETDATE. Let's run it. And it is 2025 and the month is 4. So basically with these functions you are able to separate year, months and day from any kind of data type. This is it for like date functions. Now let's move on to mathematical functions. Let's write them down. For example, let's select absolute value of, for example, -20 as absolute value. Next one is like power that I want to discuss. For example, 2 to 3 as power example. Let's say next one is square of what? Let's say 5 is square example. Let's discuss SQRT, square root. Let's say 49 is square root example. Round function. For example, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I want to like round this number up to, for example, let's say 2 decimals as rounded value. And the last one is rand. Random function returns 1 or 0 randomly as random number. Let's run this select statement and we will have the output. So absolute value of 20 minus 20 is 20, right? Power example, let's say 2 to the power of 3 is 8. Square, the 5 in a square is a 25. Square root of 49 is 7. Rounded value up to 2 decimals, like this number will be, I made a mistake here, instead of comma you should write point. Let's run it again. As you can see, up to 2 decimals round value will be this number and random number will be this. For example, every time I run this, it will give me different random number. So these functions are especially useful when working with the mathematical calculations in Transact SQL, helping you handle tasks like rounding, generating random numbers, and performing power of square root of operations. So learning these functions is very useful for you when you are using Transact SQL. Let's continue with case function. I'll just write the code and you will be able to understand it more. For example, let's again choose one of the tables. Let's choose this table, person.person, and from this table let's select from this table. Let's choose, for example, what can we use as a case. Let's use title. For example, I want to select title, and when I'm selecting title, when the case of title, when my title will be MR, for example, then I want to save that this is male. For example, when it will say, my title will say MS, I will say that she is a female. Again, next one is when, what else do we have here? MR, MS, MR. Now let's, until I want to like see the different characters here. How many different things do I have written here? For that, I want to discuss one functions also. For example, select again title from this person table, but I want to select distinct title. If I run this, I'll have this output. For example, I already wrote MR. When MR, I want to have male. When MS, I want to have female. For example, when MRS, then I want to say that again, female. Again, when we have what? We have MR, MS, MRS. Again, we have MS. When we have SR. If we have SR, let's say then male. So basically I am selecting a gender. If I will see in my table that I have MR, then I will assume he's a male. If I see in my table on the title that I have MS, I will assume that we have female. So this is 4 options. Now let's add the last one. For example, else, if none of this is an output, for example, I have null value, right? If none of this happens, I want something to return. For example, unknown. If none of this is true, then I want to say this is unknown. And as, for example, gender. As gender, this is I'm making new column name. Now I'll select it. And as you can see, when I have a null value, I will say unknown. When I have MS, I'll have female. So this case statement helps us to filter our data according to our needs. Also, you can use this case statement when, for example, when you are searching for something. Let's use following example. Let's again use this table. Use this table, and we have this title, and case when title, for example, in, we can use in operator, right? In what? For example, MS or in MRS. Then I assume she's a female. And when title, for example, I also can use equal sign, equals to MR dot, then I assume he's a male. Else, let's make it simple, else unknown. So basically in case statement I can use in operator, not in operator, equals, not equals, and lot of like syntaxes that we used in previous videos. Let's run this select statement also, and basically we will have same output because I'm doing basically same thing in a different way. Using this case function is incredibly useful when you need to add conditional logic to your queries. It will allow you to return different values based on specific conditions. The next functions in this video's agenda is what I like to call admin functions. By that I mean TransactSQL includes a variety of administrative functions that are particularly useful for developers. Additionally, SQL Server provides several built-in functions that help database administrators manage and monitor server more efficiently. So basically these functions are used by database administrators more than database developers. So let's discuss some of them. Let's say select DB name. I will write them down, and after I select you will see the output and what it does. As for example, database name. Let's say next one, host name is host name. Let's say next one, for example, username, which user you are using while you are connected to this session, is user name. Also, let's say app name. For example, not only user can be connected, like real human connected to SQL Server Management Studio, also not SQL Server Management to your database. Also, different applications connect to your database by using different like usernames. For example, app name is app name. And also let's learn about, for example, current user. But in current user, we do not need brackets, as I remember. And yes, so I'm using AdventureWorks database. As you can see, my host name is LOQ. As username, the DBO comes up, and as app name, I'm using like this Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, and current user is also DBO. There are more functions like this in Transact SQL. This is only a little part of, but there are more functions like this in Transact SQL. This is only a little part, but still, since we are talking about functions, I wanted to mention it. And the last that I will be discussing in this video is using functions in where and order by clause. In previous examples, I used functions in only select part. For example, when I was doing this one, I used all these functions in select statement. So now I want to use them in where and, for example, in order by clause. Let's do the following example. Let's select again from, for example, let's choose different table again. Let's choose this employees table. Select star from employees table, and from this table let's choose we have like different columns. Let's say birth date. Let's take birth date, and we want to order, for example, order by birth date. You can run this query like this. And also in order by, you can use different functions. For example, we discussed function year, right? You can run this way, or by day. So as you wish. In order by, you can use different functions. Also, you can use these functions in where clause, as we said. Let's change table once again. And for example, let's say sales currency rate. For example, select star from sales dot currency rate. And in this table, we will have this kind of output. And in where statement, I want to say that my modify date, let's be more than something. For example, let's use DATEADD function here. Also, let's say year -1, or let's increase -1 by 11. Let's say -11, and let's check current date. And let's select it, and we will have this kind of output. And let's wrap up today's video. As you have seen, these functions are incredibly powerful tools in Transact SQL that can help you to handle everything from basic mathematical operations to complex administrative tasks. Mastering them will make you work with SQL much more efficiently and effectively. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and tips. If you have any questions or need clarification on any of the functions we covered today, drop a comment below. I would love to help. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.